Thank you. I do a fair bit of speaking, and this is the coolest venue I've ever spoken. This is great. Note to self, get here earlier, get a beer.
I'll get you one.
No, it's okay, really. I have to drive. Thank you, though. I'm the public editor of the Toronto Star, and I prefer to respond to questions more than give big talks, but I'll just sort of make a few remarks and then hope that we can have a great discussion. I think one of the important things to know is that the Toronto Star is an institution in this community that exists largely because it does believe in free speech. But the Toronto Star and no news organization takes for itself any rights to freedom of speech that every single one of you do not have as citizens. We don't have special rights. Freedom of the press is freedom of speech in this country. The Star's view and its statement of principles is that truth emerges from free discussion and free reporting. An informed public is essential to fostering and preserving Canada's democratic society. We further refer to Section 2C of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which guarantees freedom of thought, belief, opinion, expression, including freedom of the press and other medium of communication. So our charter says that that freedom is for everyone, and we believe that. The Toronto Star also has a strong belief that with that freedom comes responsibility, and part of my role is fulfilling that responsibility. It's the responsibility to be accurate, to be fair, to be transparent, and to be honest. So we have lots of freedom of speech, but what are our freedom of expression as a newspaper, as do you, but what are the limits? So there's several levels of limits to freedom of speech for journalists and for all of us. The first one would be the law. The law doesn't allow us to say anything we want about anyone. There are libel laws that provide certain defenses for saying things, but the law still says you can say these things within these parameters. In 2009, the Supreme Court of Canada passed a law called the Responsible Communication Law Defense, which outlines some of the parameters that libel is governed by, that talks about what responsible reporting is, what responsible communication is. We also have laws around what is fair comment. And the Supreme Court of Canada has gone really far in what's fair comment. The Supreme Court of Canada says that any one of us can express opinions that are outrageous, offensive, ridiculous, outright crazy. Maybe that's the wrong word to use, but you know what I'm saying. That we have a right to express outrageous opinions, and that's part of what freedom of expression is, that exchange of ideas, and out of that wild exchange of ideas, perhaps truth emerges. So that's sort of one level, the law. The Toronto Star is also bound by its own policies. We have a journalistic standards guide that outlines policies on all kinds of things, on accuracy, on how we correct, on how we do reporting in terms of when if you're out in the community reporting, you have to identify yourself as a reporter. We believe that all of these guidelines for reporting are the guidelines that govern freedom of speech. So the thing that I get the very most complaints about from the public is people who have a hard time understanding why the Star let Rosie DiManno say that, or why did the Star let Heather Malik say that, or why did the Star let Haroon Siddiqui say that. And as a public editor, my response is that we believe in freedom of expression. We give our columnists are opinion journalists, and opinion journalists have very wide latitude to express those opinions. As the Supreme Court of Canada has said that, the Ontario Press Council has said that. So when people sort of complain about us not muzzling columnists because columnists express opinions that people don't agree with, my response is that, you know, we believe in freedom of expression, we believe there's wide latitude, and who am I as public editor to slap someone's hand and say, you know, I don't agree with that opinion, so you can't print that in the Star? Or is that an editor's role? Who decides? Who decides what is an opinion that our society that believes in freedom of speech is allowable, is acceptable? You know, in recent weeks over the whole ISIS issue and Ottawa and terrorism, I mean, there's been such a broad swath of opinions. And what I often find is that people disagree with opinions and don't understand that opinion columnists are expressing opinions, because great opinion columnists write as if they're expressing fact. And trying to discern that line between fact and opinion is really tricky. And you know, I often have to remind people that, you know what, they're expressing their opinion, it's their perspective on the facts. When I said the limits on freedom of expression in terms of opinion, the limit is that opinion columnists can't mangle their facts. So you can express an outrageous opinion, but if it's not based on truth, on fact, on something that is concrete and can be proven or disproven, then it's outside the line of what the law might allow an opinion. There was recently a court decision in BC against the National Post, against a columnist there, some columnists there, who had expressed some views about climate scientists in British Columbia. And as it turns out, they didn't have their facts right. You know, they were entitled to their outrageous opinions, but they weren't entitled to their own facts. So that's one of the big kind of limits for us. I think it's a really good limit, that you can't mangle the facts. What I find is I deal with all the Stars, the complaints that go to the Ontario Press Council, and write the kind of the first draft of any defense to the Press Council. And what I find is that whole question of what is a fact and what is an opinion can sometimes be really hard to discern. And I mean, it literally, sometimes when I get a complaint about a column, you go through with a yellow pencil or a highlighter and sort of go, okay, is this a provable fact? Is this opinion? And try and separate all that out. So that's a limit on freedom of expression. And the last one I would point to is the Star's policy. So, you know, last month, or January, I guess, we're beyond last month now, when the Charlie Hebdo attacks occurred in Paris, and all those, the cartoonists were killed, the big freedom of expression issue around the world became, do you publish those cartoons? Cartoonists died for them. The Star's policy has guidelines around taste, regarding cartoons. We have policies around religion, not offending any religion in our community. So, what do? Do you publish them? Do you not publish them? That was a really big day of debate around the Star to try and determine whether to publish those cartoons. And in many ways, it was a no-win situation, in that you were going to anger people on either side. People who believe that there should be no limits to freedom of expression, and people who believe that the Star's place in this community as an institution that has always respected religion, race, has tried not to deal in stereotypes, that, you know, you had to weigh and balance those two competing principles. It really was a great case of competing principles. I wrote a column, and so did our publisher. We decided not to publish those cartoons. I think that was the right decision for our newspaper, for our news organization in this community. We were criticized by a lot of people who said, you know, you've caved, you haven't stood up for freedom of expression. People died for that right to freedom of expression.
That's right.
It's an argument. No, I know it's an argument, it's an opinion, and I respect the opinion, and I spent several days sort of trying to work my way through weighing the evidence on both to come down on the fact that, you know, I do agree with the Star's decisions here, and here's why. Based on our policies, based on our past, based on this issue was not an issue in our community. Now, could the Star have found a way to publish one cartoon perhaps in a context that wasn't exploitive and made clear that this was, you know, in the context of perhaps, but we also know that a large percentage of Canadians would be offended and in a way that was hurtful to them on the basis of religious belief, and I don't think that's what the Toronto Star has ever stood for. So it's sort of trying to...
part of Toronto would be offended, but not all of Canada.
Well, you know, we're first of all, we're primarily a Toronto news organization.
Okay.
So those, you know, we start from the premise that you deserve information as citizens, that you need information to make decisions. The Star has been really, really aggressive in going after secrecy, government secrecy, secrecy of regulatory bodies, anything that we believe should be, the Star believes should be public information because that's what citizens in a democracy should have. And the Star looks at all of this. It believes it's doing it on behalf of citizens, it's its democratic role, and I'm sure you might be able to talk a little bit more about you know, what's going on in Ottawa with the muzzling of scientists and the fact that, you know, we have governments now that are set up to make getting information difficult. Certainly in Ottawa and really at, you know, at every level of trying to keep information from people. So I think one of the things the Star has decided is that being gatherers and communicators of information serves citizens, serves democracy, and it is you know, at a time when news is everywhere and information is everywhere, information that you can trust is a valuable commodity, and it's a way of remaining valuable to the community. So I really welcome your questions, again, just from the idea of we believe in freedom, but we don't believe in total unfettered freedom. There are times when you know, we have to do our jobs within the law and within some sense of what is responsible journalism.